Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how to replace a battery in a Max Karaoke system. Now you'll need to lay the unit down on its face, so face down, and I put some foam down here so I don't scratch the screen or damage the screen. Okay, so I've laid the unit down and you can see I've propped it up here because it is on a slight angle, the front of the unit, so it's nice and sort of easy to work on. There's about 20 screws to remove, as you can see as we go along the unit here. And then there's even some right down here. There's a couple in there as well. Same on the other side. We've got to remove this unit as well, which is the pull handle. So that's got to come off by taking these screws off here. And because there's screws underneath here that we've got to take off as well. Now we will need to remove the screws on the panel as well, just so it can detach from this, because we've got to remove this top part here, and it just folds open, so you'll see that in the next part as we go along. But first I'll take these screws out and then we'll move on to the next stage. But the two don't actually separate because there are cables attaching the front and the back, but we'll just tilt it on its side so we can get access to the battery. Now you will need a long screwdriver like this one, Phillips head screwdriver. If you do not have one like this, don't even bother attempting to do the battery replacement, because some of these sockets are quite, as you can see there, they're quite far down, so if you've just got a normal screwdriver it will not work. Now you will also need a soldering iron for this to detach the two black and the red terminal, so they're the two basic tools that you'll need to do this. Now it also helps if your screwdriver is magnetized, because it's not easy sometimes getting them out, and you might have to tip the unit upside down otherwise to get the screws out. Mine is magnetized and it can sometimes still stick, but there you go. So as you can see, it says magnetized, and I'm storing all my screws in the one spot so I don't lose them. Okay, so I've removed the 4 screws off the trolley handle, so that just comes off like that, and you'll see there's now 2 inside there that need to come out as well. So they're right in the middle. They're pretty deep down and they're hard to get out, but it certainly helps if your screwdriver is magnetized, as you can see there. Don't forget the 2 on the feet as well. There's 2 feet there, and then there's 2 inside there you can see as well that need to come out. Now I've got all the screws out, but I've got to remove the top ones here as well. Now these sometimes have a Phillips head. This one's got a slightly different one, so I'm using a different head on the screwdriver to get it out. As you can see there, sort of a different sort of a screwdriver there, but it's, as long as you've got a socket to get that out. But you must remove the panel, just make it loose, because as you can see it's joined here, so this is holding this top part to the case, and I won't be able to get that off, and you'll break it if you don't do it. So you just have to unscrew these. I'm going to remove all these screws so it's loose, and I can just remove that. So as you can see, I've removed the 6 screws there, and then that just pulls out quite easily like that, so it's loose. So now that the top part can just be, as you can see, I can lift that up. So what I'm going to do first is tilt it on its side. Now I've just made sure that all my screws are out, and a couple were just stuck in there, so I had to just get them out first. Now everything is loose, and I've got the panel hanging out, so because I've just removed the 6 screws and I've just got it comfortably sitting out there. And now the only thing that's stopping me from opening up the case is these rubber feet at the moment, because they're stuck, part 1, part 2, stuck together, so I do have to peel them back a little bit so I can get them to separate. So I'm just going to peel it like that back, and do the same for the next one, and then I'll be able to peel the whole thing, take the lid off. That's it, like that. So it's just held on by glue, the rubber feet. So now I can lift, as you can see, the unit up like that, and there you can see the battery inside. So, and you can see there's a wire connecting it to it, and there's also a wire there to the on-off switch, which is all running to the board. So I have to be careful. I can't just let this thing go because it's going to break those cables. So what I'm going to do now is just move it over to the other side so that the battery's on the flat, and then I'll have the other side sitting on this, so it's easy to work on. Okay, when you've got all the screws out of the unit, and the front panel is loose as well, so it's still sitting in there but it's loose, and it's on its face like this, we now need to turn it over. So carefully hold it together still and rotate it like that. Now we can lift off the front like that and see the battery inside. Move the unit like that. So as you can see, I've laid it down this way so I can now easily work on the battery, and I've just got very carefully the front section, which is the LCD screw panel and the speaker. I've got that lying on its side, and it's still connected. As you can see, all the wires are still connected, so I've just carefully adjusted the way so I can work on it. So and the front panel's still sitting there, so it's all there. It'll just all go back together when I put the lid back on, and I'll have to flip it up the other way again because the screws, I have to do it from the back. But first thing I have to do is take out the little brackets here to stop it, from the battery from moving, and then I'll be able to desolder the connections on the battery and put a new battery in, and I'm done. Put the case back on and it's all done. Okay, so once you've removed the brackets like that, so it's just sitting in there like this, and it's probably got a little bit of glue underneath. So just pulled the battery out. As you can see, there's a bit of a sticky on there, so it's sticky tape holding it in there. So it makes it a little bit tight, but it's basically sitting in like that. So it's pretty tight in there, and the metal brackets just hold it in place so it doesn't move around. That's very important. So, but it is very tight to pull out. So, but there it is like that, and there are the two terminals that I now have to disconnect and put the new battery on. Now on the battery there's just a bit of rubber here, and I just peeled that off so I can see the terminal, and that's what I have to desolder there. And likewise I have to just use my nail there and just scrape this plastic back like that, and then I've got access to the terminal. Just by peeling that back like that. Okay, so there's the battery, and I've just peeled back the bit of rubber covering the terminal just with my nail, just pulled it back. Same with this one, and I can see, and that's what I have to desolder, those two terminals there, and put the new battery on. So as you can see, I've put a multimeter on here, and you can see there's only 2 volts. It's meant to be around about 12 to 13 volts, and that's why the battery needs to be replaced. So yeah, you can see that's why the unit's not functioning properly. Okay, so I've got my multimeter here, and I'll just check the new battery. 12.5, brilliant. Old battery, 250, so that's had it. And this is my new battery, ready to go. So I just have to solder the terminals on and I'm done. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed the end in like to the hole like that, and I'm just going to hold it like that, and then I'm going to re-solder it, put a dab of solder right there over the top, and then the new units come with terminals, and I'm just going to then stick that over the top like that. So I won't be using the plastic tape anymore. I'll just use this terminal cover like that, and once it's soldered I'll just put the terminal cover back over so it's nice and secure. So that's how I like to do it. That way I just put the terminal caps back on like that. So it's soldered underneath, and I got instead of having the rubber which was on there before, I've just used the existing terminal caps that come with it. Now the next thing to do is basically just to flick the switch on before we, which the switch is just here, so underneath there where my finger is. So I'm just going to flick the switch on and make sure that the unit powers up before I screw everything back together. Okay, so we're just going to flick the switch and make sure everything's working before we put all the screws back in. There you go, so it's booting up perfectly. Whereas before it was dead, it wouldn't power up at all under its own steam with the battery. So now she's going through its boot up mode. There you go. So the next stage will be the home page. There you go. So you can see the battery indicator up here. And there you go. So it's all working again, which is good. So now we can put it all back together. Okay, so make sure the unit is off. So not on again. So, and now we can just put the battery back in its place. Like that, so it's nice and snug in there, and then we're going to put the brackets back on. Make sure you put the brackets back on. Do not let the battery just float around because it will damage other internal components. And that's the last thing you need. So there you go, nice and tight. She's not going to move at all. Now the other thing just to make sure of, now I've got to tilt this unit back on its face because it's on its back at the moment. I need to make sure that these remain here. Do not close it with the cables hanging over here. They must be in this section here, otherwise you will eventually cut them just by putting the lid back on. So make sure that they stay there. Sometimes I put a bit of tape over here to make sure that they, in the process of me flipping the lid back over, that it doesn't move. So as I just mentioned before, I've just put a bit of sticky tape here. So nothing important, just to make sure that this does not move when I'm putting the lid back on, because I do not want to slice the cable by having it sit here. Okay, so I've got it back down on its face. Now the first thing you have to do is make sure that it lines up at the back, and then the rest will fall into place. So it's sitting properly in its spot there, and now the screws can go back in, so you can put the rubber back in place like that, and now we can put the screws back in. Okay, so we've got the front here, so we're just going to move that into position like that. I'm just going to do the top screws for starters. I'll do the center one. I won't do the bottom row until I've done all the top screws, all these screws at the top here, which is technically the back, but that's what we're going to do that last, because these larger screws, which are going to go in here, for example, as I go around the unit, they're going to bring the two together. So then once this is all attached, then I'll do the bottom row. All the screws are the same, except for the rear where the rubber feet are. They use a skinny version screw, but all the ones otherwise are a thicker screw. So the skinny screw, there's only two of them, they go into here, and the thicker, bigger screws, they're all for around the body of the, so into the bigger holes as you see there. And don't forget the ones in the middle, the two there, and then there's all two here at the either side there as well. So they've all got to go back in. I suggest you alternate, so you do start doing one here, for example, then do another one here, and then do the same on the other side, and then fill in the gaps. The last thing you want to do is do one whole side and then maybe the other side starts lifting up, so that way you get a balanced, everything stays in position and you don't have a gap or have to push hard down on anything like that to get it in. Again, whilst it's on its face, make sure you've got something underneath, and because of the funny shape of the unit, I've put something under there so it's not rocking. Without this, the whole thing bounces up and down as I'm trying to screw back in the screws. So this way it's on an even keel and it doesn't move too much. Whereas if I take this out and try to put, you can see there's a lot of movement and I don't want that. So just get yourself some foam or a towel or something like that just to make sure it doesn't move. Okay, so now all the screws are done on the bottom, or the back of the unit I should say, and now I'm just doing the last three on the bottom row for the control panel, and I am done. You will spend the most time with this unit doing the screws, putting them in, taking them out. That is the most time consuming part of this, especially if one of the screws gets stuck or something like that, which I had with this unit right now. A couple of them got stuck in the plastic, so it takes a bit of extra time to get it out. But the change of the battery is very quick. But just getting the case off in a safe manner, so you don't break any of the wires or anything like that, that does take the most time. So, you know, it takes around about a half an hour, all in all, to get it done properly. Okay, so I hope you found this video helpful in removing the battery and changing it out. You will spend your most time getting the screws out, because there's quite a few, as I've shown you. Take your time when pulling it apart. Make sure you get all the screws out. Sometimes you might have to tilt it over to get the screw to fall out if your screwdriver's not magnetized, but really do take your time. Do not go pulling at it, because you don't want to snap any of the cables or anything like that. It is very tight inside as far as the cables. They don't give you a lot of room to move with, so take your time, but it is easy to do. You will, like I said, you will spend most of the time with getting the screws out. And if you put it on a flat bed with a bit of packing or a nice soft towel so it doesn't move, it'll be nice and secure. Now, the most important thing with these units is do not charge them whilst they are on. You will cook this board at the top, and very expensive to replace. You might as well buy a new unit. And I've seen it many times, it gets burnt out, and that's not covered by a warranty. The batteries have a 3-month warranty from brand new, and the reason is because most people do not look after the units properly. Because you must turn these units on. They say every 2 months. I say you should be doing it every month. Doesn't mean you have to use it, but just turn it on, stick it in the corner somewhere, turn it on, and put some music through it, just if you want to, or just turn it on. It will just charge the battery. It'll take longer, but you just charge it, and then once it's discharged, turn it off, charge it up, and then the battery's had full cycle. But like I said, do not charge and use it at the same time. It won't charge anyway. It might say it's charging, but it doesn't do it. But if you just stick it in the cupboard for 2 months or 3 months or longer, and then hope to have a party in the weekend and you find it's not working, that's because the battery's gone completely flat and the 15-volt charger just cannot get it back, recover the battery. It just won't do it. And a lot of people just leave it on and, oh, we'll just use it with the charger, but you'll end up cooking the board and you'll have nothing in the end. So that's why I've done this video, to show you how to replace the how to replace the battery. But the most important thing is that you periodically use the unit, and that way you use it, discharge it, reboot it up again by charging it up, and then you can put it away. If you do that once a month, then you're going to have this unit running for a very, very long time. But if you stick it in the cupboard for a long time, then there's a good chance the battery will go flat on you, and then you'll have to replace it. And that's why I've done this video. But I can't stress enough, do not use this unit and try to charge it at the same time. And if you discover the battery is not working, do not use it on the mains power, because you will damage that board. Okay, so it might not happen the first time, but eventually this thing will get so hot, it'll burn out. So that's my only warning on that, because I've seen it happen. And you basically can throw the thing out, because it's expensive to buy the boards, and it's very time consuming to replace that whole board with all those different cables and stuff like that. It can take hours, so not worth doing it effectively. So please look after the battery life by turning it on and off, and using it. Flatten the battery, charge it up, then you'll have it for a long, long time. Well, I hope this helps. This is Tim from Karaoke Home Entertainment, and that's how you change the battery in a Max Karaoke system.